So hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. So today we are going to solve an interesting problem, which is LeetCode Biweekly second question. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So what's the question is, you are given two integer num1 and num2 representing an inclusive range. Okay, the waviness of a number is defined as the total count of peak and value. A digit is peak if it is strictly greater than both of its immediate neighbors. A digit is valley if it is strictly less than both of its immediate neighbors, right? The first and the last digit of a number cannot be a peak or a valleys. Any number with fewer than 3 digits have waviness of 0. Like return the total number of, or the total sum of waviness of all number in the range. Okay, so let's see an example. So what uh, the waviness of number is defined is, like you have given the number should have a digit more than or equal to 3. So for example, in this case, what is the waviness? So either digit number contain a valley or either it contain a peak, right? So what we can do, like let's simply like what exactly they have mentioned in the question, that valley, like what they have mentioned, that they clearly mention a digit is a peak if it's strictly greater than both of its neighbors, and if it's less than, then it's called a valley, right? So let's see an example, and we cannot consider first and the last digit from the number. So for this case, let's say 2 is our valid candidate, right? Because we are not allowed to take the first and the last digit, right? So if 2 is greater than its previous, and then 2 is greater than its next, if this is the case, then in this case it is a peak element, right? And if same, if 2 is less than previous and 2 is less than next, in that case it is a valley, right? So this is the definition they have mentioned in the given question, right? So let's see an example of this, why the answer is 3. Like we have a range of 120 to 130, right? So we have these numbers, and let's write all of them, right? I think it would be more better. 122, 123, 124, 124, 125, 26, 127, 128, 129 and 130, right? So these are the numbers. Let me just, so we will go one by one. So in this case, we know the length of this number is 3. So we can only take one element here, because only one element is our valid candidate right now, because we are not allowed to take first and the last element. So here 2 is the valid candidate for us, and we check if 2 is greater than 1 and 2 is greater than 0. It is a valid because 2 is greater than 1 and 2 is greater than 0. Then we simply add 1 to our answer, right? Which we have did in this example as well. Let's go for the second one. Again we have 2, so we check condition is 2 is greater than 1 and 2 is greater than 1. It is again true, then so we simply add 1 to it. Let's see the third case. We have 2 is greater than its previous elements and 2 is greater than 2. This is false, right? Because 2 is greater than its previous, but 2 is not strictly greater than its next neighbor, right? So in that case, it doesn't contain any peak and any valley, so we simply add 0. Let's go to this next test case. Same here as well. 2 is greater than 1, but 2 is less than 3, which is also not satisfy our case. So we got 1 or 0 as our result. In this case, 2 is greater than 1 and 2 is less than 4, means it is also not our valid result. So we add simply 0 to it, right? If we do this, so at this particular case where we have 130, so 3 is our candidate. 3 is greater than 3 is greater than 1 and 3 is greater than 0. It is our valid candidate, so we simply add 1 to it. So how many results we got? Because if you run for all these cases, so we are not going to get any particular result. So we are going the result as 3, because we have a 3 valid numbers in which we got a valley or like peak element, right? So we have to achieve that particular thing in our code. So how do exactly we approach this particular problem, right? So we know we have a range of this to this, and between this range we have to find the numbers the sum of those peaks and valleys, right? So if you see, like what if I ask you, what if the number is like this? So they have clearly mentioned that if the number have digit less than 3, in that case the peak and value is not possible, so we simply return 0, right? In that case it's simply 0. So we use this particular intuition in our code to optimize little further, right? And how to think about this particular problem, right? I know I want to start from num1 and I go till num2. So, and the constraint they have mentioned is 10 to the power 5, which means the number are right. So, and as per the condition, we only have to process uh, the rest of the element including excluding the first and the last one. So if we count, so we only have 4 digits, right? So every time we call a function where we are actually doing this particular operation, we just executing that particular function for a 4 number of times, which is equivalent to O of 1, right? Which is equivalent to a 1 operation. So right, and so we just simply iterate from num1 to num2, and for the every element we simply use one particular function where we are checking the both the condition, either it's a value or either it's like if here I can write if my n is greater than, let's say, n minus 1 and n plus 1, then it's my peak element. Same if n is less than n minus 1 and n is less than n plus 1, then it's my value, right? So I just simply write a function where we are actually performing this particular operation, and we can easily calculate our answer based on the requirement of our question, right? So I don't think it's too much difficult. So let's see the code. So this is the code which I have written. It's basically a Java code which I have written, right? So let's start from here. I have told you that if the number is 99, then there is no point of calculating, like I'm checking for the num2 because I have a particular range, right? For example this. So for example, let's say the number is 10. So do I need to perform an operation in this particular number? Because as they have mentioned, where they have mentioned, yeah, any number with fewer than 3 digit has a Waviness of 0. So there is no need to check. And why I'm checking for the num2? Because num2 is my higher range, right? It is not make sense if I just check for a lower range, right? So that's why I'm returning 0. In case if, for example, if the number is like 99 and the upper range is, let's say, 200. So in order to handle this, like you can also question that why we are not handling this as well. So here what I'm doing is I'm iterating from, not from num1 directly, I'm taking a maximum of num1 and this 100, because I want to start from the 3 digit number, right? So it doesn't make sense if I start with 99 or 10, whatever the number is. So if the number is greater than 100, then I will take, let's say if the number is 101, I simply take that. If it is, let's say, 99, then I'm taking the maximum. So I always start from 100, right? It will ensure that I am in a particular valid range, right? And then I have a function solve where I'm actually passing all the numbers. Here the solve function, first I'm converting it into a string so that it become easy for me to write perform operation on the particular digit at a particular position, because in case of number we need to do some more stuffs, right? So I found it more easy, that's why I converted it over there. Then I am starting from first index and going till n minus 1, because they have mentioned that we are not allowed to include the first and the last element, right? I have extracted the current character. I'm just checking if the current character is greater than the previous and it is greater than the next. If it is the case, we are simply adding 1 to it as per the like condition which I have mentioned in the question. And same case for a value, right? This is the case peak element, and for this one uh, it's value elements, right? You can say whatever, right? So I'm checking for the same. If it's, then after that I'm just simply returning the result. And once we got our result, we are just adding it all the results which we have calculated from this particular range to this range, and then returning the result, right? So talking about the time complexity, so the time complexity of this particular code is like O of num 2 minus num1, because this number of time we are actually executing our function, and in worst case, like how many times we are executing this solve function, right? Like the number of iteration this is going to perform is max to max. Like if our constraint is 10 to the power, yeah, 10 to the power 5, right? So we are just allowed to perform operation on these digits. So these are the 4 digit. So we are just executing that particular function, or the piece of code is 4. So we simply apply multiply it with 4, right? So this is our time complexity. And talking about the space complexity, so it is O of 4 when we are like converting it into a string which is equivalent to O of 1, I guess, right? So this is the overall time complexity and the space complexity of this particular question. And let's try to run this code. Let's see it's working fine. Let's submit it. So yeah, we are able to solve this particular question, and I hope you understand the concept behind this particular problem, which is not too much difficult, as the constraints are also not high. But in case of higher constraints, the code is not going to work. It maybe produces a TLE, right? So thanks for watching this video. I hope you like the video, you understand the concept. If you like the video, don't miss to subscribe to the channel. Please drop a comment, and so that I got to know the way of explanation. Like it required some improvement, so that I can make some improvement and while explaining, right? So I love to hear feedback from you guys. So thanks for watching. Bye bye, take care.